I'm Levente Németh, representing Nokia here today. And in the upcoming 5 minutes, I'm going to talk about practical applications of 5G mobile networks. Oops, and that's my presenter. OK, so let's start. In this presentation, I will explain 5 unusual, perhaps less known applications of the 5G mobile broadband technology, where the greater bandwidth and the lower latency matters. Here you can see in a simplified table that compares the 5G with the previous 4th generation mobile networks in terms of latency and download speed and allowed maximum mobility speed. So if you check, latency is usually less than 10 milliseconds in case of 5G, and the download speed can be 20 times more compared to the 4G networks. And this is which really counts here in the upcoming examples. So example number 1 comes from the railway industry. There's an EU-funded project called FRMCS, which aims to introduce 5G as a main railway communication and signaling platform. And within this project, there's also an initiative to do automatic train control. Similarly to self-driving cars, there are different levels of automation here, but here we level it from 0 to 5. And driverless operations are considered as level 3 and level 4, and unattended operation is the level 5. And in this case, we need so-called critical video support, meaning that there should be a high-quality video stream with no delay, no jitter, no errors, because we either have to process the camera stream, usually on the edge cloud immediately to detect any obstacles or issues, or if there's an issue with the train and the remote operator take control of the train, he should be able to control with no delay. The next example comes from the enterprise industry. Believe or not, one of the main reasons for wildfires in the US is the so-called caused by falling conductors. So when a high-power electricity line breaks and the cable actually reaches the ground, a high electric arc could happen with intense heat, and that heat can actually light up the surroundings, starting a wildfire. So the mission here is that we need to detect this malfunction and notify the closest control center as fast as possible and shut down or cut off the electricity even before this cable reaches the ground. The next example comes from the agriculture area. As you might know, drones are already in use since long. However, the coverage that where they can operate is limited due to the radio signal that they are using. And also, in many cases, the recorded video is usually stored in an SD card and processed later on, rather than processed immediately. With 5G, we can also expand this one so that we can do high-quality video streaming and processing on the fly. We can detect pests, plant diseases, and we can act immediately on the fly. The 4th example I brought you here today comes from the industry. As you know, in the factories, there are these very cool-looking manufacturing robots that are very, very sensitive of latency. If there's a packet that has more delay than 10 milliseconds, in many applications, it's considered as a lost packet. And if there are way too many lost packets, then the entire manufacturing process can be shut down due to security reasons. So because of that, they usually use optical cabling for this. However, 5G can do also the same job without wiring, which becomes really handy when they need to reconfigure the factory between product changes. And also, as an additional benefit, 5G can provide precise positioning as well within the factory area. And the last example I brought you here today is coming from the first response services area. So imagine the situation that you are visiting a foreign country and you got into a trouble. And you have to call the emergency services, but unfortunately, neither you nor the operator share a common language that you both speak. So in this case, an AI-driven natural language translation process can come into the picture that does the translation for you. And of course, this can be done without 5G as well. But with 5G, you can do it without no delay. And that was 5 benefits for 5G. Thank you so much for your attention.